Michael Furman is a very talented photographer. His subjects are sensual, curvaceous, and shiny. Yes, I said shiny. And I'm not talking about models with oily skin. Michael is a car photographer. Even if you're not a car buff, you'll appreciate his artistic take on automobiles. Michael, when did you first discover you had a passion for photography?
Well, Suzanne, I first picked up a camera when I was about 12 years old to photograph a Corvette. And I think it was more about the car at the time than it was about photography. But for whatever reason, I kind of stuck with photography. And very early on, I figured out that I really loved light and seeing things and composing things. I really wanted to be a photojournalist. I went to college for photography, and my instructor pointed out to me that photojournalism and I didn't belong in we didn't belong in the same sentence.
Is that right?
But he said, you know what, I think there's something to you. You seem to have some sort of photographic connection. And I started getting more involved with lighting, shooting still life, and I became a still life photographer.
So how did you move into automobiles?
Well, as a young man, I started my business immediately out of college here in Philadelphia. I was very lucky. I was very successful at a young age, doing mostly pharmaceutical work and corporate work and advertising. And I said, this is all very nice, but it would be even more exciting if I was shooting things I had a greater interest in. And I never forgot that Corvette from 1963. And I bought a car, got into shooting cars.
What is it that attracts you so to an automobile?
Automobiles have very feminine characteristics to them. And that is, a lot of the curves and shapes of an automobile are very reminiscent of a woman's figure. For me, cars are very sensual. I approach the cars really from an aesthetic background. So for me, I'm really relating to their design, their aesthetics.
What are some of the challenges of shooting a car versus a person or a thing?
Well, cars are just very large things, and my background was shooting smaller things. So going from small things to big things was really just a matter of getting the equipment that allowed me to do it, and also finding a space large enough in which we could work. People are a whole different situation.
You've got to deal with their emotions too.
Yeah,
right?
and you have to get them on the right day, and you have to try to capture their feelings. What I try to do is capture the feeling of the car, which I consider, when I shoot cars, much like shooting a portrait.
Are there photographers who have inspired you?
My inspiration for shooting cars isn't from other car photographers, it's from portrait photographers. My favorite photographers were people like Richard Avedon and Irving Penn,
right,
who photographed people very directly, very straight on, and they allowed their subject, their expression, their facial features to carry the photograph. In my case, I really want the car to be the star, and I don't want a situation, I don't want the car parked in front of a beautiful house. I don't want the car driving down a country road. I don't want any of that. I want the car in the studio by itself. And it's my job to make the car look good enough that you relate to just the car. My approach is very, very simple, very, very direct. And either it's right or it's wrong. I don't have any place to hide the way I work.
Why this car? I mean, what makes it special?
Well, this is a very unusual race car from the 50s. It's a Jaguar D-Type. Not only does it have a great race heritage, and it's one of the great designs of the 1950s, but the overall shape is just really quite extraordinary. After this came the E-Type, and that was the car we all lusted after when we were kids.
Gorgeous. When you walk into a room and you're going to photograph a car, how long does it take you to set up to take?
Well, the actual setup takes a day. But that's just to get the base equipment all set up and ready to go. But once the equipment has been set up and the car comes into the set, it can take a few hours till we take the first photograph. Sometimes what we'll do is we'll take a photograph very quickly just to kind of get the juices flowing. I can usually look at a car and tell if it's going to be more difficult or easier than others. Some cars, like this silver Jaguar behind us, it just about photographs itself. It's so beautiful, and its color combination, it makes it easy to shoot.
And it sure has that sensuousness that you talk about.
Oh, it really does. It really does.
I mean, what presents the greatest difficulty, or what kind of car have you had troubles with?
There's a few things that create issues. One is the shape of the car. Something else would be the color of the car. And sometimes it's the combination of shape and color. The silver Jaguar behind me is spectacular as a silver car, but we recently photographed one for Ralph Lauren, and the car in dark green photographs very, very differently than the silver car does.
Where can one see your work?
Well, we've done a number of books over the years, and that's usually where people see our work these days.
The great big coffee table.
The big coffee table books. We did one for the Simeone Museum here in Philadelphia. We've done one for the Mullen Automotive Museum out in Oxnard, California. And it's a series of books. You can imagine one man has a collection that is so large, it's a series of books. But I guess the greatest issue would be a matter of expectation. If you own a car and you think it's the most beautiful car in the world, and then you hand it to me, as with my reputation, you're going to think that, wow, this is going to be the greatest thing ever seen. And living up to someone's expectations is probably the greatest pressure you have. The funny thing, Suzanne, is a lot of people don't have expectations about certain things. They think, oh, that car's not very attractive. It's not even worth photographing. And I look at it and I think it's beautiful sitting there. And there's something to be said for everybody and everything in this world if you take the time to look.
A little while back, I was honored to have Michael take my picture in what was once Dinah Shore's car. The shoot was great fun, and I couldn't be happier with the results.